Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Attention Please podcast now on video. If you like the podcast, kindly like, share, subscribe. You know what to do. So today we have a guest, and he's known as MaxDaVinci on Twitter. Thank you, Max, for coming. And he's wearing a Chennai Super Kings training shirt. So that should tell you what loyalty, which team he's loyal to. For those of you who don't know, even though I'm wearing, a Christmas t-shirt, still I'm a Kolkata Knight Riders fan, a suffering Kolkata Knight Riders fan. And today we are going to be discussing the IPL auctions and how the teams screwed up or didn't screw up in this auction. So hello, Max, and welcome to the Attention Please podcast.
Hello, Dada. Great to be here.
Good to have you back. Good to have you back. Max has been here before a long time ago. So let's get started. So what we did, and I initially was planning to share this, the slide, to just the team names with the different players they have selected, because I keep forgetting where Jaydev in Unatkat currently is, for good reason, since he changes franchises like Aaron Finch every year. So it's very difficult to remember where he is currently. So we're going to be speaking of a PowerPoint presentation that we have shared with just the player names and who's playing on what team. So if you see us looking down, that's the reason, in case you're watching that. And people do comment about these things. So let's start off with one question before we get to the teams. So this was like a mini auction, right, Max? So whoever's basically screwed up their franchises have already done so. This was like playing some kind of patching bad software. This was more a patch release, right? So who do you think overall, given what they have done last time? So let's not discuss what they did last time, but who do you think patched the best among all of them? And it might still be that their team is terrible, but at least they patched the best.
I would think it would be Rajasthan, because they did not, their only big thing was they had 4 number 11s last time playing for them. And so that's what they did, right? So they got Jason Holder in. So now they can bat. This Holder comes at 7, Ashwin comes at 8, and they can go deeper. And that's what there was a problem last year. So I think, and they only had one thing to fix. So it's easy to pick them out as well, because they only had one thing to fix. They very surgically fixed that. And then they also just Kheratne got Zampa and these other guys. But, they had a problem. They fixed their problem. Some of the other teams, I don't even think they knew what their problem was. They were just like this, Murgi Pakana kind of a thing that they were doing. So it was very odd to see what some of the other things were doing. Bangalore also, I thought, again, they didn't have any problems to fix. Right. They just lost because they played like shit. That is all. But they still went and got a backup for Hazelwood. They got a backup. So they just got backup players, but didn't have to do anything. So theirs was the most solid team. If you look at the option wise, right, their playing 11 is not going to change. It's going to be exactly the same that it was last year. And Rajasthan is going to be 10 plus Holder. The other teams will see a lot of changes compared to what you saw last year.
Right. And I think this year there is going to be the impact player. For those of you who don't know, IPL has changed their rules, bringing in a BBL style. BBL has had this for a few years. I don't think they have it this year, but it's really like the super sub that used to be there, I think 10 years ago. But unlike the super sub where you had to name your super sub at the toss, here you basically have a set of 5 players. It could be any one of them. So you have some flexibility depending on the match condition to decide who your super sub is going to be. The only restriction is that if you are playing 4 foreign players, that set of 5 cannot contain another foreign player. So it's not, so logically you might think, well, if I sub out a foreign player, I should get a foreign player, right? So there's never more than 4 foreign players on the team, on the field, but that's not the way they have done it. If you have 4 foreign players in your starting 11, you can only select an Indian player as your impact player. However, if you have 3 foreign players in your starting lineup, and I'm guessing that some teams, and I would say Kolkata Knight Riders should do that actually. They should start with 3 Indian players, and the way they have changed, they have selected, they should get a 4th foreign player depending on which depending on which way the match is going. I think KKR have thought about that. I'm going to be surprised, of course, when during the games start and we'll see that KKR has absolutely no idea about that strength that they have. This is all unintentional and me kind of interpreting Gunda in that way. I'm basically doing that. But I think KKR has hopefully intentionally done that. So clever use of the impact player thing. But let's start with the team that won last year. I would say rather surprisingly. I would say surprisingly because teams usually don't win in their first year. It takes time for even the best teams to gel together. You put like even 11 good players together, it normally takes some time for everybody to know each other, to know their roles. But Titans did a great job winning last year with, I don't think they didn't have a great auction either, in my opinion. So it was like, on paper, they shouldn't be winning, but they did. So, Max, we have the team in front of us. What do you think their problems were and what do you think they fixed or couldn't fix?
Well, I agree with you. Like right from the time the mega auction happened till the day of the final, I have no idea that how they did put up any of the wins they did. They had no business winning the games they won. They had no business winning the title, but it just happened. And after that, they just like they did this mother of all trades where they gave away Lockie Ferguson and all these guys saying Lelo to KKR. And I'm like, what are you trying to do? Like, this guy was in the final. He helped you and you win the final and you just gave him away. So it was very perplexing to see what was going on. But again, Gujarat on paper, though still look very shaky. Even today, I will say they look very shaky because if you have Tewatia at 6 and then the rest, any squad is shaky, I would say. But then what do we know? They were talking about winners. But they got Josh Little for Lockie Ferguson, which I think was a very good one. And I think they also picked up a backup for Yash Dayal. They picked up Mavi. So they got those two things in, which are again backups. But I think their frontline level is pretty much the same. I still don't understand how Matthew Wade finds a place in that team. If you ask me, Ridhiman Saha or Kona Srikar Bharat should be playing ahead of him. So maybe they would do that. Maybe they would play one of those two in because both of those guys can be one down. And then, you maybe use an impact player somewhere if they wanted to.
So I agree. The way I look at their team is obviously Rashid Khan plays, right? So he's like their start player. So Rashid Khan plays. Then you have Josh Little. Josh Little will absolutely be playing. I think Noor Ahmed is the backup of Josh Little. They also have Alzari Joseph. I don't think any of them will get a game. So it's going to be Josh Little is an absolute certainty. Josh Little and Rashid Khan come in. They're going to play. Now, David Miller was a huge success for them last year as a finisher. So I think David Miller is at least going to start. And I'm pretty sure he's still going to play all their games. Now, the fourth foreign player is where you wonder. So there are really two options on the fourth foreign player. It's either Kane Williamson or it's Matthew Wade. So I'm going to stick my neck out and say they're going to take Kane Williamson because otherwise they wouldn't have bought him. Kane just made a double century, right? In the test matches.
In the test series, yeah.
So he's in pretty okay form, I would say. I wouldn't say that he's I think he has the same problem as Virat Kohli and Steven Smith, is that as they go to the trailing edge of their career, they just can't, their brain can't handle 3 formats. So they have to let one format go because it's an instinctive game, right? You make a decision in a split second. So you're not thinking. So either your test brain takes over or your one-day brain takes over or your T20 brain takes over with basically different neural networks are guiding them. And as you grow older, it just becomes very difficult to juggle 3 neural networks in your brain. So at the height of your powers, you can, but as the powers start waning, you have to decide which one I will let go. So for instance, Sachin Tendulkar very wisely said, I'm not going to go for the T20 one ever. So the people make these choices, and some of the smart guys make these choices very well. Dhoni, for instance, let Test cricket go very early. He still could have played, but he just said, no, I can't handle that neural network anymore. It will suffer. My other games will suffer. So he let that go. So Kane Williamson, I think they need someone. I think Kane Williamson is okay because they have a fairly inexperienced batting lineup, even including Hardik Pandya. I think they don't have a lot of experience in their batting lineup at all. So now that the games will be played in let's say Delhi, some of them will be played in Chennai, which will be a spinning track. Okay, so in those kinds of tracks, I think you need good batsmen. You don't need somebody who will consistently hit at 150 strike rate. 130 is fine, but they need to play anchor, because right now there is nobody in that side who can play anchor.
Right.
Yeah, you can say Shubman Gill, but I think Shubman Gill, they need somebody a little bit better than Shubman Gill at this stage. And I think Kane Williamson was a good buy for them at that price. I think they absolutely, that was the gap I felt in my team. In their team, they still have, I think, a paucity of good Indian batsmen. They have one less. They need one more A-grade Indian batsman, and those are difficult to find, obviously. So I think they're okay. They're pretty much the same as they were last time. I think KS Bharat is going to open. I think he's a cover for Riddhiman. I think Riddhiman is also on his way out. So they selected, it's a good thing. So they have a backup for Riddhiman. Riddhiman might start, but I think he's not going to finish the season. It's going to be KS Bharat. So it's be KS Bharat opening with Shubman. I think it's a good opportunity for him. I think he had an opportunity in Bangalore. In Delhi, he was obviously never going to play, right, with the captain being a keeper, trying desperately to get into the Indian team, So it was never going to happen for KS Bharat there. So I think he's in the right place. It's good for him. I think, and I would finally like to thank Gujarat for at least returning the favor Bengal did by sending them the Tata manufacturing plant, by giving us, First of all, taking Shivam Mavi away from us. Thank you for that. As a long-suffering KKR fan, it was extremely expensive and was absolutely terrible return on investment. I think he's still way above what he's worth, but at least this price has been rationalized.
I agree.
And he also gave us back Loki Ferguson, who we had no business letting go last time, because Loki Ferguson was the more effective of the two, and we let the more effective of the two, our pacers, go. So I'm glad that we have Loki back, and I'm glad they have Shivam Mavi as a KKR fan. All right, so moving to the next team, which is the eternal. I'm trying not to say losers, because then I'll be magnificently trolled by RCB fans. I was trolled by SRH fans last time for saying they have a terrible team, which, by the way, the tournament proved, is Bangalore. And I know, Max, that you like Bangalore. And so what did Bangalore do right? What did Bangalore do wrong? And we all agree that Bangalore, I think, is a pretty good side. On paper, of course, they won't win, but they're pretty good side on paper.
Last year was the year, if they had to win, last year was the year. And because they got two of the best imports from CSK. They got Hazelwood and Faf, right? So two of the problems right away got fixed. And right now, you look at that 11, I think they had just to play last year's 11 and just not screw up. There is no problem in the team except for maybe number 5, where 5 and 6 is probably their struggling point, because I think that's where Mahipal, Lomror, and Shahbaz Ahmed play, with DK coming right after that. But when you have a top 4, and especially now Patidar has been doing brilliantly even in the domestic circuit, right? So you have Faf, Virat, Rajat, Maxi. Then 5 and 6 is where they are suspect with those 2 Indian players. But then after that, DK, Vanindu, Harshal, and then Josh and Siraj. Last year, I think Siraj had a terrible, terrible year. And this year, their fortunes also will be decided by what kind of a year Siraj has. If Siraj has a good year in the power play, then, yeah, this team, Isala Kapnamdi, as they always say, but the Sala never comes for them.
Yes, it's like the England side in football World Cup. But for me, yeah, the team is good, but I have certain issues with the team in terms of certain. First of all, and I'm going to make a prediction. I don't think Josh Hazelwood is going to be that effective this year as he was last year. So Josh Hazelwood has had a certain dip in form. So, and I think they know that. That's why they selected Reese Topley. So Reese Topley is really the cover for Josh Hazelwood. It's a good cover, I would say. Definitely. He's also a left-arm bowler. So Indian batsmen have a problem playing good left-handed bowlers, right? So Reese Topley, I think, might actually be the player who's going to play most games and not Josh Hazelwood. I'm just making this prediction. Now, the big problem for me, the big structural problem for me is having Faf and Maxwell both. Because Faf also is at the end of his career. He doesn't play regularly. And he's not, I mean, he's a very good player, but he's not ABDV, right? So ABDV is a different level of genius. So Faf, and I was watching some of the BBL games, whether he can captain and whether he's the best batsman in the side. I mean, there's of course Virat Kohli. So there's the form of Virat Kohli, which we know vacillates. And I just wonder whether Virat is actually even motivated to play IPL now, or whether he has bigger things on his mind at this point of time. So Virat is kind of 2 years behind the curve on Rohit Sharma in terms of his T20 form. So I don't think when we look at Virat Kohli, we would normally say there's Virat Kohli in this side, who cares? But it's not that Virat Kohli. So actually Rajat Patidar seems to be their I would say is their Surya Kumar Yadav emerging kind of guy. Yep. He's the future of the franchise at this point of time. Their problem is they have a lot of, past their primes in their side. So there's Dinesh Karthik, right? Very obvious candidate. Then there is Virat Kohli also, I would say, in terms of how motivated he's going to be. There's definitely Faf, which brings me to Maxwell. So Maxwell has been injured for a long time. He's not playing in the Big Bash. And Maxwell, as we all know, is very much a hit or miss guy. And Maxwell usually does better when the tournament goes to Dubai. You remember one of his best seasons was when IPL went to, he was like virtually unstoppable in Kings 11 Punjab. They came back to India and that was it for him. So he has had consistently a problem when the tournament is exclusively held in India. So if you count if you count that Hazelwood is also like this, Virat Kohli is also like this, and Glenn Maxwell is hit or miss and coming off an injury, that's where I think that this side has certain structural problems, which I feel they could have tried to fix, but they chose not to. I think their best acquisition was Reese Topley. And if Glenn Maxwell can't play, there is Will Jacks.
Yeah, Will Jacks. Will Jacks is a like for like, he balls off spin. And I think they also have Finn Allen.
They also have Finn Allen.
Between those three, one of them can play. But you're right. It's the top two.
Yes,
it's which Virat shows up to the tournament.
Exactly. And my issue with Finn Allen is, again, from the little that I've seen Finn Allen play, he's very suspect against good quality spin. So if you because he's going to go, if he bats, he's obviously going to open. So if Finn Allen opens, then Finn Allen is like a sitting duck for the good spinner. I mean, even an Amit Mishra will take him out in 3 or 4 balls. He won't be able to stand against Amit Mishra, in my opinion, not a decent track. He might hit 1 for 6, he will get out the next time. So he's somewhat like that. And Will Jacks, again, the problem with these guys is they play well in BBL, or they might have played well in the 100, but playing in IPL is a totally different thing. Like, we've seen many very hype players come and have very average seasons. Like Josh Philippe, superstar in BBL, doesn't even play IPL anymore. So I'm always, you have to discount a little bit the new guy who comes in. So Glenn Maxwell, I don't think Will Jacks is still there, but let's see. So moving on to the next side is, again, Delhi Capitals, which is, again, a very interesting side. And so what do you think of Delhi Capitals?
Delhi got a couple of interesting buys. They got back Sharma ji. Ishant is there. And then for some reason they have bought Manish Pandey. And Manish Pandey is also one of those IPL enigmas where every team just splurges money to buy him, and then he never, lives up to that promise.
He
He's
lived up
also
to, in one game for KKR, he did the finals.
yes, we know that very well.
Yes, that was the only time.
But it's like it's that whole Jayadrat thing, right? Which is just
Yes.
happens, and but they did get Phil Salt, but again it goes back to the thing. These are all unproven in Asia commodities. Like Riley Rosso is also another one that they got. So Salt and Rosso are paper tigers, but I don't know what's going to happen, because I think they got Rosso because of Marsh. They're not sure if his body's going to hold up for the entire season.
Yes.
I think that's where that is. But Delhi, I think their biggest problem is also, again, that 5-6. What happens there? Because you have Sarfaraz and you have Rovman Powell.
And Lalit Yadav is definitely playing, right?
Do you think he's playing? I don't think he's going to play. I think it's going to be Warner, Prithvi, Marsh, Pant, Sarfaraz, Rovman, Akshar, Kuldeep, and then Sakaria, Norke, and maybe Nagarkoti.
Okay, so I would say that they're going to play him because he's an all-rounder. He also bowls spin. Yeah, I mean he can, again, in Indian conditions on certain pitches, he can give you 2 decent overs. So see, the problem with this team is, again, Delhi does, I sometimes think it is the worst. It is one of they somehow managed to get very good teams, but before Delhi Capitals, the old Delhi Daredevils, like virtually every player has gone through them and then they have let them go. Like, think of any of the great IPL performers. ABDV they had, Andre Russell they had. Think of everybody, Glenn Maxwell they had. So they had everybody and they let everybody go. Obviously David Warner, of course, till they let him go and got him back. But look at the foreign players, right? So Anrik Norrie is definitely going to play. He's an absolute shoo-in. Now, on the Delhi track, they might want to play another foreign player. They might want to play a Mustafizur, okay, because of the slowness of the track. And Mustafizur is a very specific skill. It's when the track is basically a spinning track, he plays. Because he's basically a glorified spinner. Okay, he really spins it well at speed. He's kind of a Venkatesh Prasad with the other hand. So, so there is this. Anrik Norrie is definitely going to play. I mean, his pace absolutely intimidates the Rinku Singhs of the world, right? That level, they can't play space at that. He's fairly accurate. So Anrik Norrie is going to play. Mustafizur may play. David Warner is a shoo-in, right? So David Warner definitely going to play. He just made another double century. I think he's good. So David Warner is going to play. Rovman Powell is going to play based on
Marsh has to play.
So that's the thing. So Marsh is to that slot. They might try Marsh, Russo, or Phil, because Marsh doesn't bowl anymore, right? He barely bowls because of his his injury problem. So he's not going to be used as an all-rounder. So his competition now is with the Phil Salts and the Riley Russos. Again, neither Phil Salt nor Riley Russo have played IPL before. So there is always this, can they make the cut? I mean, Rovman Powell played well last year.
Yeah.
And he's a good finisher. So I think, and with Sarfaraz, here's what I believe the problem with Sarfaraz is. So because of Sarfaraz's, let's say, non-athletic build, and I'm being very polite here, I think he has a problem with people like Ricky Ponting. I don't think people like Ricky Ponting want to play people who are so visibly unfit, in my opinion. So they will go for a Lalit Yadav, who's like, see, this is an Australian Greg Chappell mentality. They don't like, and Virat Kohli also has this, right? This is why Sarfaraz had no future in RCB when Virat Kohli was the captain, because there's just a level of fitness that Virat Kohli wants, and he was nowhere close to it. It was very evident. So I think this is where Sarfaraz is going to keep struggling. I think he's a great batsman, but he needs Saurav Ganguly as a coach.
But
to
I feel bad for Sarfaraz, man. He's had a beast of a season in this year, the domestic season, in the Vijay Hazare for Mumbai, and even now in the Ranji, he's just like killing it. So I think he did even well in the Syed Mushtaq. So I would feel really bad if Sarfaraz doesn't play.
because Sarfaraz also had some very good IPL innings for RCB, right? There is this picture where Virat Kohli goes like this. This was a very young Sarfaraz, and he was playing 360 shots. So I've always felt that it was never, his batting was never really a problem. I mean, there are players in IPL who've had a much longer rope just because they have been better fielders and they've just been, athletic, I would say. And he unfortunately has a very short rope to play with. And he also is unfortunately with one of the worst coaches for him, in my opinion, which is Ricky Ponting. If he was with Chandrakant Pandit, for instance, maybe he would have a much better chance of being in the 11. This just
there's someone who I would like to see play, but I don't think he'll get a game, and that's Yash Dhul.
Yash Dhul won't be. He's in the Delhi side, right?
Yeah, he's in the Delhi side, but I don't think he'll get a game. He can fit into this team because purely, as a batter, and at the slot at where it is, Sarfaraz or Lalit probably are higher in the pecking order for that slot. If it was like a number 3 thing, maybe he has a chance, but yeah, he's also immensely talented. Right? The guy is like 21. He's the captain of the Delhi Ranji team. That doesn't happen. But Delhi has a problem of plenty because they have a lot of people they can slot. They just don't know what the right 11 is. Do they play Khalil? Do they play Nagarkoti? Or do they say, Ishant, come give us a game? They don't know, right? They have Ingidi, they have Mustafiz, they have Norke. Like, who of these do they play? They just have problem of plenty, but none of them are like absolute winners. So it's like, I could play this guy, I could play that guy, and you don't know.
And they have a problem is that Rishabh Pant is the captain, so you can't drop him. So there is a case to make for dropping Rishabh Pant, actually, if you go with the strongest players. But that's not going to happen. So, and you have Ricky Ponting as a coach. So it's a very interesting dynamic. I think they're a very strong side, but as you said, they have a problem in plenty, but I think their bowling is weak. I think that they will struggle with their bowling. They have just one knockout bowler in Anrik Noria, by the way, who was selected by Kolkata Knight Riders and let go. Again, another genius franchise. But I think they're going to struggle with their bowling in India. So let's now go to Rajasthan Royals, which I think pretty much everybody thinks is the best, most balanced team at this point of time. And you were saying that they. So how do you think Rajasthan will win it this time?
They better do with this squad. I don't know where they think now their problems are. Like last year, the batting was a problem. They had, like I said, 4 number 11s. They fixed that. You have 2 of the best, arguably best spinners in the team. You have Bolt, you have Prasidh, and then on the top you have Joss, Jaiswal, Sanju. DDP has to now play 4. Hetmeyer is there. So they only have a Riyan Parag problem. Other than that, that team with Holder at 7, is just there. I don't understand the only thing I don't understand is RR's love story and the loyalty that they have with Riyan Parag, this is going on for like 3 seasons or 4 seasons now. But for some reason, they have him in the team. He won them, I think, that one game against SRH, where he did the Bihu dance and all that. But I don't see Riyan Parag.
I think he has good social media game. Let's just put it. And I think I think that's the value he provides. It's like what Rinku Singh provides to KKR, which is, he's very good for the social media part of KKR. We all agree that Rajasthan Royals is the most active social media presence, and they do a lot. And people might think, well, how is that important in IPL? But IPL is a total entertainment package, right? It's not just cricket. It has to cater to everything. It has to be in the news. It has to be exciting. There has to be something going on. So most of at least 50% of the action has to happen off field. So when I look at this team, again, I always start with who are the foreign players you're going to play, since you can't have more than 4. So obviously Trent Bolt will be playing. So Trent Bolt and Joss Butler are obviously they're playing. Now you have to play Jason Holder, right? Because Jason Holder is, I mean, they lacked that all-rounder, and they got at a very cheap price, I would say, for what Jason Holder brings to the table. They got Jason Holder. So now they have Jason Holder. So there are 3 players who are absolutely playing, right? You can't drop any of them. Now you have like this curious thing of, should you play Joe Root or should you play Shimron Hetmyer? So here is where I would say they have a case for, with an impact player, of starting with 3. Just start with 3. And then use your Rian Parag as the guy to move out to the bench. So if you're having a collapse, you bring in Joe Root, for instance. So you let Joss Butler go hell for leather. You let all of them go hell for leather, and you keep Joe Root to, just play a 140, 150, those kinds of games. Or if it is that you need a very hefty finish, you bring in Shimron Hetmyer. So this is again where I believe they could use their impact player well. And I'm hoping that they thought on these lines when they made their team. They should start, this is again another team which should start with 3 foreign players, I feel, in my opinion.
And actually, they also picked up Zampa. So if they're playing at the Eden or Chepauk, they could have Zampa instead of
so many
Bolt.
spinners, man. They have already 2 good spinners. They have Murugan Ashwin, right? So they could get in another fairly decent fairly decent spinner. So they have a lot of spinners, I would say.
I think they just picked up spinners where no one else has them. That's
Kishore Kariappa. Kariappa is also there.
So I don't know what they're holding, because you have 2 who are sure shots, and then but I really think maybe they picked the third Zampa because maybe they could because they can swap Bolt out and use Zampa maybe at Eden or something like that.
They can't swap Bolt out to Zampa, right? Because 4 foreign players, then they have to play 3. That's the rule. So see, that's the thing.
No, as in like not play, not start. At Eden, you start with 3 spinners when you're playing at Eden.
No, I can't see this side, because if you take Trent Bolt out even on an Eden pitch or even on a Chennai pitch, the problem is they are going to lose the game in the first 6 overs. Because there is nobody else. I mean, Prasidh Krishna is,
No, there's a kid, Kuldeep Sen, who's pretty quick.
Yeah, but he's going to get tonked. He's not going to be able to get wickets, right? In a fairly decent opposition, he's not going to be able. You need somebody like Trent Bolt, who's a threat, who's a wicket-taking threat in the first 2 or 3 overs, right? Yeah. And again, the left hand is a huge deal. That's why they also have Obed McCoy. So I think that if Trent Bolt doesn't play, it's going to be Obed McCoy. They have this is a team which is really thought through every little aspect of their backup. So I think Obed McCoy is the backup to Trent Bolt.
You're right. No, I was just trying to see in my, put some wild ideas to how Zampa comes into team. And there is no logical reasoning on how Zampa can ever play in this team, especially when you have Ashwin and Chahal. And so you're right. So there is no way Zampa ever plays. Maybe he's just, again, to make coffee, those, and do a reels or something with them.
All right. So now we come to Sunrisers. So Sunrisers, last time I got into a lot of trouble, Max, so this was like last time I made my IPL analysis videos in segments. Like for every team I made like 10 minutes. And nowadays they don't show the dislike option anymore. Like you can't see the dislikes. For most of my videos, my like to dislike is like 92% likes, 8% dislikes. That video had like 60% likes and 40% dislikes. And it was insanely viewed also. So I made it to some or multiple WhatsApp groups of SRH fans. I'm pretty sure. And so what I had said last time was that I think SRH last time absolutely screwed up their auction by essentially letting go everyone. So they had no one at that point of time. I mean, when your best player and you're looking is Abhishek Sharma, like who's your star? Abhishek Sharma. You have a problem, right? The moment you say that. So I think that of all the sides, they did, in terms of the patching, I think they did the best. because they started with, I still think it's a side with a lot of holes.
Right.
But given what they had, I think they understood what their problem was and they solved it to an extent. So what did they first do? So they first got rid of Kane Williamson, who was their marquee player. So that gave cash. And I think this is the way franchises should think. It's not an indictment of Kane Williamson as a player. It is that as a return on investment, the amount of money he's holding up, he does not provide that amount of value. So maybe he's worth a lesser amount, which is what he actually went for, right? That is pretty much the return on investment. That is a good investment in Kane Williamson, not what he was being paid in SRH, because they chose to retain him, which was the wrong thing to do. So they should have retained Warner, by the way, but they had a problem with falling out, so it was not going to work with them anymore. But Warner was obviously the person to retain.
Right, yeah.
Because you can't buy him at an auction. He will go for an insane amount of money. So they got rid of him. So they got that money now to buy essentially the number one Indian batsman who would be on auction. That is what they were looking for, right? They were looking for that. Now they had enough money because they also let go. The second guy they let go was the Bitcoin of IPL, as I like to say. He's what's his name again? I've just forgot, the West Indian keeper.
Puran.
So Nick Puran, and I tweeted a graph of his valuation over the years. So he started off at 2 crores for Mumbai Indians. Then he was 3.2 with Punjab for 3 years, which is basically, he played with them for their full term. Then he suddenly jumps up to 11 crores for Sunrisers, and now he goes for 15 crores, whatever, I've even forgotten. So this guy is totally Bitcoin. He has no performance in the IPL. He's played IPL for a long time. He will have one isolated innings here, there. But his only value is this. The reason why his valuation rises is because everybody thinks he's valuable. That's the only reason. So that's why I call him the Bitcoin of IPL. So they decided to offload him, which was a very good decision. And that allowed them, in my opinion, to go for one of the big ticket foreign players that were up. Now, I honestly felt they would go for one of the 3-star all-rounders that were up. So I thought that they had the money.
They were in the bidding also for a while.
Yes, but I think they went and they overpaid, I would say, for Harry Brook. I think they massively, because when I say overpaid, it's they went into the auction with, hey, we will buy Mayank Agarwal no matter how high he goes, which is what KKR basically did that for their greatest auction. But they said, we will buy Gambhir no matter what cost he comes at. Gambhir and Yusuf Pathan we will buy. We don't care what amount of, that's it. We need them. Next, we will buy whoever we want. And it worked for them. So they didn't cut any corners. And I think they did that for Shreyas Iyer too, with considerably lesser success last time, because that is what basically blew up their auction. After that, they couldn't buy anyone.
Yeah.
So this time, I think what they've done is, now I think their side looks good. It looks good. I think there's still problems, but it looks good. First of all, I think they have the best Indian pace contingent, right?
Yeah.
They have Bhuvaneshwar Kumar. Again, the problem is his fitness, and obviously he's on the declining edge of his career. So I don't know how many years, or whether this is the year where you just can't. He's not effective anymore. But he's always been a effective player, I would say, in IPL. I can't think of any IPL where he's consistently performed badly. So he's a Raina kind of guy in terms of bowling.
Yeah, he's a minimum guarantee. You don't recall a season where he was atrocious. Like,
yes,
he will be under the radar or average, but he will be there.
Yes, and anybody who plays fantasy knows that he's always good for points. You never go into a side without having Bhuvaneshwar Kumar. He will give you some points, which is unlike Umran Malik, who can absolutely 3 overs for 40 runs. But that's the thing. Their bowling lineup is balanced. They have a steady guy in Bhuvaneshwar Kumar. They have an explosive match winner in Umran Malik, who can go for 40 runs, but he can also take 4 wickets, right? And again, he has that pace, and he's at the height of his career. I don't think he will have a long career. given the amount of stress that you'll obviously he's putting on his body. So he's 2 or 3 years max at that speed. But I think he's still in his Natarajan is the problem. I don't know where Natarajan is. It is on his fitness. So, but if Natarajan, Umran, and Bhuvaneshwar are all playing, this is as solid pace bowling attack as you can have in the IPL, because they're all different kind of bowlers, right? That's the thing. It covers all the like real fast, left-handed, and normal conventional swing bowler with a lot of experience. Now, one of the problems they had last year was they let Rashid Khan go, but they never got any spinner. Like Washington Sundar isn't a match-winning spinner, right? He's an all-rounder spinner. He's a bowling all-rounder. So last time their best spinner was Abhishek Sharma and Washington Sundar was injured. So they needed to really splurge on a world-class spinner. And they got 2 of them, I feel, Adil Rashid and Akil Hossain. Now, Akil Hossain is obviously not a match-winning spinner, but you don't need, you have Adil Rashid is a match-winning spinner. On a Chennai track, Kolkata track, Delhi track, he can destroy the other side. Now, Akil Hossain he's an all-rounder, right? For those of you who followed his career, the thing is Akil Hossain is a left-handed bowler. So that they don't have a left-handed spinner. So Adil Rashid right-handed, Akil Hossain left-handed. On a really spinning track, they could actually play both. So they have they have good all-Indian pace attack. They have a fairly decent, perhaps one of the better spin attacks. So SRH's main thing has always been they're very bowling strong. That's been their brand.
Yes.
Right? Bangalore has always been very heavy hitters, terrible bowling, and not served them very well. SRH was a very good bowling side and Warner. That was basically their winning formula.
Yeah, even before, right? They had Amit Mishra, Siddharth Kaul, and they would defend 120.
Yes, so that's their technique. And I think they're kind of gone back to their sweet spot. Now, Harry Brook, I believe, is who they feel is the next Warner. So they have to anchor themselves to one foreign batsman who is a consistent match winner. So that is why they went. Again, I think this is a huge bet because he's done nothing so far. But, that's how Devold Brevis and they're all like that. So they went for Harry Brook. Harry Brook is their main guy. So I think now it looks fine because now they have Mayank Agarwal. They have Mayank Agarwal, Rahul Tripathi, and Abhishek Sharma. So their top 3 positions have Indians. Their bottom 4 or 5 are full of, again, a little light on batting maybe. And at the lower end, that is their problem. But at least all of them are very good bowlers. There's not one weak bowler in that side. Their all-rounder is maybe a problem. Abhishek Sharma is an all-rounder, but he barely bowls nowadays. So Washington Sundar is there. So Washington Sundar is their all-round option. And with their finishing, they now have Harry Brook. So top 3, we have Indians. So Harry Brook and Glenn Phillips. Glenn Phillips has to be their keeper. So they have either will play Glenn Phillips or Henrik Klassen, right? Because they don't have any other wicketkeeper.
Yeah, they don't have an Indian wicketkeeper. So it's between Phillips and Klassen, one place. And this is also a disadvantage because now one spot is gone for your wicketkeeper.
So they do have a wicketkeeper called Nitish Kumar Reddy, who I'm guessing he's not going to play. But so they have Glenn Phillips, and Glenn Phillips didn't play a lot of games last year, but Glenn Phillips is many people don't know. He's one of the top-ranked T20 players in the world.
But it goes back to the other thing, right? In Asia, because Harry Brook, I think, is a really good buy because he's done well in Pakistan, in PSL, and all that. So Harry Brook makes sense. The Phillips Klassen still is a toss-up because still I would say not very high proven. Markram, to me, I still don't understand his role fully because he's there. Markram is one of those players who is, guy in the background. There will be a game where he will come and score like 35 balls, 50 or something maybe. But if you look at that squad and you see, okay, can this squad score, give you 150 to defend every game? It is suspect. That is where it is because the bowling, yes, the bowling can defend. If you give them 150, the bowling is good because you've not even spoken about Marco Janssen and Fazal Faruqi, who are there, foreign fast bowlers who are just there, who may never get a game because now the tournament is in India, but they are still there. So their bowling riches in the seam department are crazy. And, they now have a Rashid back in Hyderabad. Not the Rashid they should have had, but they have a Rashid.
Yes.
So that works out. But I think their 4, 5, 6, 7 don't evoke fear in any bowler's mind. And in the depth, like if you're 16th over, 17th over, and you have Phillips and Washi and all, they're good players, but you're not going to, freeze in your tracks versus if you're against a Tim David or, one of those guys, then it's a completely different thing. That's probably where there is. So it's not as horrible as it was last year. Chennai and Mumbai did them a favor by finishing below them. But this year, can this 11 give them 150 consistency to defend is the thing.
I think they missed a trick, and as a KKR fan, I was very happy they didn't. Is they should have gone for Jagdeesan. They should have, because they needed an Indian keeper. There were basically two good Indian keepers. There was K. Bharat and Jagdeesan, right? Jagdeesan still is an unknown quantity. He's had a phenomenal season. So that's why, and I don't know why CSK let him go. He fought with CSK. I don't know what he did for CSK to have let him go, but he was let go by CSK. But these guys needed a very good Indian keeper, right? Because the only thing that kind of constricts them is they will have to play a foreign keeper.
Yes.
Yeah. So if they need if they need to put say, for instance, a Marco Jansen on some pitch, they're not going to be able to. There's no keeper. They'll have to play Nitish Kumar Reddy, which is that's going to be their problem.
Yes.
So, and they had money. They could have gone instead of blowing it on Klassen. They could have blown it on a Jagdeesan or a K. Bharat because they had the deep pocket. They could have outbid KKR, who had basically had nothing. So.
Because they still had money after the auction was done. I think they still had like 6 crores or something left.
which is almost what KKR started with. So they could
they just took 6 crores back home.
They could have blasted KKR, who, by the way, I'm kind of burying the lead. I think I did a decent auction. I think they did a real decent auction this time. They were very lucky. They were very lucky this time also. So next come to Lucknow Super Giants, who acquired Nicholas Puran. So these are the guys who are investing in Bitcoin now. So by the way, at the height of Bitcoin, I never invested in Bitcoin. So I thought, let me just see what it would be like. So I invested $20. And now that $20 is $6. So I'm so happy I didn't. But it's just there to remind me of the bullet I dodged. Given my timing in life. So coming to Lucknow Super Giants. So Lucknow Super Giants is, again, I think its most interesting acquisition was Amit Mishra, to be honest. And the reason why I think it's a good acquisition is because of the impact player rule. Because Amit Mishra is obviously not somebody who can stand the rigors of a full 40-over game. But he can, on a pitch, come and bowl you 4 overs and be subbed out immediately and have somebody else come in. And that's really all he's going to do. So, and he can make those 4 overs count. So he's still, and that's the thing with spin bowlers, right? He's a very good spin bowler. Again, I think he would have had a better career if he could bat a little bit better and if he had, like, he was a better fielder. But as a spin bowler, there were very few, I think, in recent times who were such a classically competent spin bowler. He was like the Muhammad Rafi of spin bowlers. Like,
yeah, the whole loop, no one does that anymore because all the other so-called leg spinners you see now, Bishnoi or Markande, or it's different. It's flatter. It's more from the side. It's not going over, and then there are no revs anymore. So he is the last of the breed.
So I think that when you have somebody like that, those are kind of the Harry Brook killers. Because if Harry Brook sees a ball, I don't know. Again, maybe Harry Brook is a very good player of spin, but against that kind of spin, it might be just one or two balls, like Finn Allen, Harry Brook, those kinds of players. Not a problem for the Kane Williamsons of the world, but problems for these kinds of guys. So basically, like 360 players don't have a great technique, but can kind of manage. So this side, I think bowling wise, I think what they have, Mohsin Khan is going to play, right? Mohsin Khan and Avesh Khan are going to play. Now, they have Jayadev Unadkat this time. So they took Nicholas Puran and they took Unadkat. So their meme game is definitely strong here. So who do you think is going to be their 4 foreign players? There's obviously going to be Quentin de Kock. So let's start from the top. For them, you should start with de Kock is going to play. Puran's obviously going to play. You don't bust so much money and then not play him. Then they have Mark Wood, I think, is injured.
Stoinis has to play, and then Wood is now injured. So yeah, so here's the thing. If you ask me you asked earlier who had the best option. If you ask me what the worst option, for me it is LSG. Because I think they just picked up all the discards. Tumko nahi chahiye, tumko nahi chahiye, tumko nahi chahiye, haan de do, main le lunga. So if you look at everyone they've picked up, they've picked up Puran, they picked up Unadkat, they picked up Daniel Sams, they picked up Romario Shepherd. So it's people like who teams spent a lot in the past and have let go. They have picked them all up. Mumbai spent a lot on Daniel Sams. They overpaid. They clearly knew that. They let him go. Hyderabad overpaid for Shepherd. They let him go. Puran, they let him go. And then Gambhir is like, chalo, aa jao. Sab log aa jao. So I just don't understand any of this. And like I said, Amit Mishra seems to be the only proper buy in this team. So like they need backup for Mark Wood. Like they had Dushmanta Chamira, they let him go, and they didn't buy anyone back. And so their only backups for Mark Wood now are Daniel Sams or Romario Shepherd, which both are not in the same league at all.
Right. So here's where I think they'll have to play Daniel Sams. Because Daniel Sams, if you look through so they have like Avesh Khan and Mohsin Khan, right? They're going to play. So these two players are going to play. Ravi Vishnu is going to play. So that's 3. So now they'll have to go with Jayadev Unadkat if they want to have a full 4 in the batting. But they'll have to play Daniel Sams. Daniel Sams is, I don't think it's a stretch considering him to be an all-rounder. He can bat, he's a C-grade version of Yusuf Pathan if you've watched him play. Like,
last year, Unadkat and Daniel Sams have both walked out at number 7 for Mumbai Indians.
Yes, so that's a structural problem. So Daniel Sams, I think is going to play. So Daniel Sams, Nick Puran, Quentin de Kock. Now, you would say Marcus Stoinis, but for those of you who've been following Marcus Stoinis' career, he's had a precipitous drop in form recently. So I was actually thinking that they would let go of Marcus Stoinis. I'm really surprised because Marcus Stoinis is one of their retained players. So he is actually holding up a huge amount of money for them. So but they let go the wrong all-rounder actually.
Right.
so they actually let go their real guy and they kept Marcus Stoinis. I'm not sure where they are going with this because Marcus Stoinis also doesn't bowl very regularly. He bowls 1 over all sometimes at the end. The problem with this side is I'm worried about that they don't have a finishing bowler, first of all. And their, who's their spinner? Amit Mishra. That's it, right? And Krunal Pandya. Yeah.
Ravi Bishnoi. Ravi Bishnoi.
So spinning they're okay with. They have also Krishna Gautam also. So if they want. But I think their batting is the real problem. And we haven't talked about the elephant in the room, which is KL Rahul. So KL Rahul, whenever he plays in any side, he basically scores all the runs, right? At any point of time. The basic thing with having KL Rahul is he's like in Mohalla cricket, he's like the Dada. He comes in, he bats for the most amount of time. Nobody else gets batting. He owns the bat, he owns the stumps, and he goes home, right? So it's like their fortunes will depend on KL Rahul. And I just wonder where he is at this point of time, in terms of his psychological makeup. Because obviously, when you are, the problem with KL Rahul is he's having a bad time, right? And he was having a bad time, and they decided to make him captain of the test side. So why would you do that to a guy who's obviously undergoing some kind of crisis in terms of like his technique is being exposed consistently? You shouldn't increase his responsibility. You should let him figure out things on his own. And then he went to Bangladesh and had another disastrous series in Bangladesh as a batsman. So maybe IPL is where he gets his mojo back, but I think it's going to be tough given that there is not a lot of backup in this side to KL Rahul. If KL Rahul goes early, and now it's your Quentin de Kock, right? Who else is going to bat? It's a side with just two batsmen.
Yeah, because last year also, if you think about it, Deepak Hooda was the one after Rahul who had the highest number of runs. And however far they got was only because of Deepak Hooda. So he was the one who propped them up. But it's that problem here. Like one, they start with 3 wicket keepers. The top 3 are 3 wicket keepers. And then after that, you have Hooda, you have Badoni, Stoinis, all of which Kunal Pandya. So that 5, 6, 7 doesn't hold up very well against like a Norke or any of the bowling attacks. That 5, 6, 7 doesn't hold up very well. And they let go of Holder and they didn't fill that hole either. So now they are actually one bowling option short, one batsman short as well, and they have to now prop up Daniel Sams or someone like you said. So none of this makes sense to me. I'd be very happy if they end up at the bottom. We can make I can make a lot of memes about their T-shirts, their logo. It's box office.
Okay, all right. So moving to the side which I think will finish at the bottom is Punjab Kings, because look at this side. There is no Indian batsman in this side. I mean, how they basically blew their pockets on Sam Curran. I mean, in terms of their foreign contingent, amazing, but they can only play 4 players. I hope they know that. So who opens? Shikhar Dhawan opens, right? Shikhar Dhawan obviously is on his way out. He cannot anchor. So between Shikhar Dhawan and let's say KL Rahul, you can at least expect KL Rahul to be the anchor of your season. Shikhar Dhawan has been a great IPL player too. If you look at his numbers, but expecting Shikhar Dhawan to be the only mainstream Indian batsman to carry an entire team is too much. Who's their best Indian batsman after Shikhar Dhawan? It's Prabhsimran Singh, right? So Prabhsimran Singh is their, okay, they have Shah Rukh
Khan. But again, last year Shah Rukh Khan didn't turn up, so you don't know what's going to happen this year.
But again, this is the fear factor, right? When somebody's going in and they look at, let's say, KL Rahul. Yeah, you when you're bowling to KL Rahul, you're going in and you see KL Rahul on the other side. You can't laugh and say, KL Rahul, right? So they no matter what KL Rahul does in IPL, he's something else. So, but if you look at this side, and given the amount of money they had, again, I think it was inexplicable that they let Mayank Agarwal go. I mean, Mayank Agarwal might not have had a great, one tournament, but I think one of the things that KKR actually does well is that they trust their players. So let's say Andre Russell hasn't had great seasons for many times, but he hasn't had a terrible season either. So they keep him. They keep him because they believe that that he will win you some games and that he has the potential to do it at any point of time. And at the very least, when you put Andre Russell in your 11, that scares the other side. They will do some things. They will take some strategic decisions which are anti-Russell. That will free the other guys to do their stuff. So that is why. So that is the fear factor. ABDV, Russell, Warner, they just put that doubt in the other team's head. There's no doubt. So you need a few of them. Now, when you look at this, yeah, they're all foreigners. You have Johnny Bairstow, right? He definitely plays. But Johnny Bairstow also hasn't played for a while, right? So he has had injury problems. So he hasn't played for a while. So your main guy essentially is Liam Livingstone.
Right.
So you have Liam Livingstone and you blew your pocket on Sam Curran, who I think was vastly overpriced. Like Sam Curran is good, but he's not that good.
Exactly.
He is not that good. He is nowhere close to a Dwayne Bravo at his best. Dwayne Bravo, again, for those of us who play fantasy cricket, also know how effective Dwayne Bravo is. He takes catches, he, of course, he gets wickets and he scores runs. So he's always good for a few points. Sam Curran had one very good season, right? Sam Curran played for Punjab Kings also before, if I am
Yes,
not wrong.
I think
And
that's
he didn't have a good season.
Yeah, that was the Ashwin captain season.
Yes.
And Sam Curran was a premier bowler at that time. If you put a team with Sam Curran as your premier fast bowler, then
yes. So here you have Sam Curran, and who is your next? Arshdeep Singh, right? So here again you have two left-handed bowlers. So straight off the bat, you have more of the same, right? You have two left-handed bowlers. You don't have a good right-handed fast bowler, unless you choose to.
Rabada.
So you have Rabada, right? So you have Rabada, who is actually out of form, very much so. So you have Rabada, who is absolutely going to play, right? So Rabada has to play because Rabada has to play and Sam Curran has to play because you spent so much money on Sam Curran. So Rabada has to play, Sam Curran has to play. Then obviously that means that Sikandar Raza cannot play. So I don't know why you bought him. Because he's not backup to anyone here. Or you have at that point of time, Liam Livingstone will obviously play. So Johnny Bairstow. So the only backup is Sikandar Raza a backup to Johnny Bairstow? Obviously not, right? They're very dissimilar players. So there is no backup to Johnny Bairstow, who is the one who needed the backup really. So in my opinion, these guys should have gone for Harry Brook.
Yes.
They should have bust their bank on Harry Brook because that's the guy they actually need to back up Johnny Bairstow. Because if they can't back up Johnny Bairstow, they actually can't field a team. Honestly, this is not a fieldable team in IPL, what they currently have.
They have Bhanuka Rajapakse. He played a couple of, I think he made a 50 in one of the games I remember last year. But and he's also a keeper. So he and JB are,
but Prabhsimran will possibly keep. He had a good season last time.
Jitesh Sharma was a keeper.
Oh, Jitesh Sharma, sorry.
Yeah, Jitesh Sharma actually had a very good season last year. But you're right? First thing is Shikhar Dhawan probably has to be the captain of this team.
He has to be. He will be playing every side.
Yeah, he will play. He is a captain. He will give you 350s in the entire season of 48 balls or 46 balls or something like that. So 3 to 4 50s is what you will get out of him. You know that. Mm-hmm. Now that puts a lot of pressure on Livingston, JB, because Jitesh, Shahrukh, Sam Curran are not going to, like you say, evoke fear. And their bigger problem is not just that. So in terms of bowling, you have Arshdeep, KG, Sam Curran, and then after that you have Rahul Chahar, Harpreet Brar, Rishi Dhawan. They're all going to give you somehow between them 8 overs. That is also another thing there. So if Rishi Dhawan again is good, it is the same like last year. If Unadkat is walking out at number 7, you have a problem. If Rishi Dhawan is walking out at number 7, also you have a problem. Nothing against the guy. I mean, I love his story, the way he came back and all of that. He's had a pretty decent season, but he should not be walking out at 7 for you.
Yes, he shouldn't be. So again, these guys had a lot of money. So
they have 12 crores left. They walked away from the auction table with 12 crores left, which is the amount of money other teams have paid for a single player.
Yes. So that's I don't know. I just struggle to understand why Punjab gets it so wrong every time. I mean, some sides just get it wrong every time. I feel bad for them and their fans if they have them. So
they chop and change so much. They chop and change so much that this time even Anil Kumble is out.
Yes. See, that's the thing. They don't have any constancy. I think one of the things is you have to keep faith. I think that is what we have learned in all these seasons of IPL, that the teams which consistently do well, let's say Chennai, even on paper, if you look at a Chennai team, you'll say what terrible team it is, but they perform, right? Because the thing with Dhoni, from what I understand, based on what I've read, is he's a person who just goes after people he trusts, people he believes that can deliver. It might not be the most obvious guy, but people that he has a belief in. So he will stick with, let's say, somebody like, who would be an example? Like Dwayne Bravo. Dwayne Bravo would not be playing in other sides for so long. He had, but he, even because he gets injured, right? But they keep faith in Dwayne Bravo. They've consistently, Mumbai also with Kyron Pollard, right? So these two sides consistently keep faith in Mumbai Indians, less so. They've also kind of kicked people out. They've had bad seasons also, but Chennai is the reason why it's the most successful franchise is, I believe, it keeps faith. Now, Kolkata Knight Riders, the next team that we're going to discuss, obviously keeps faith, just like Chennai Super Kings, but in the wrong people. So that's the difference between Chennai Super Kings and Kolkata Knight Riders. So, for instance, they keep their faith in Venkatesh Iyer. So there was a huge, if I think Venkatesh Iyer should have been released. And Venkatesh Iyer, again, being a retained player, would have definitely opened up a lot of money, because Venkatesh Iyer, for the money that he's holding up, isn't worth the price, in my opinion. But he's there, and we have him. So I think Venkatesh Iyer should have been let go at this point of time. I knew that they were not going to let Andre Russell go. So he's really their identity. He is to them what, let's say, Dhoni is for Chennai Super Kings at this point.
Or like a Pollard to Mumbai, right? That's.
But they did let Pollard go. But with, I mean, he retired. But obviously,
yeah, and he's now their coach, one of the coaches.
Yes, but so when we look at Kolkata Knight Riders, the good thing about this team is that they can actually, and I think they should start with 3 foreigners. They should start their game every time with Sunil Narayan, Andre Russell, and Loki Ferguson. Okay, they should open. So they have, let's say, they should not open with, let's say, Rahmanullah Gurbaz. They should play, and that's why I think it was very important to buy Jagdishan. They should open with Jagdishan. They should open with Jagdishan and tell Jagdishan to kind of be the anchor, to be the Shubman Gill kind of a player. Okay, and let Venkatesh Iyer, Nitish Rana, all of them go hell for leather. Okay, now at some point of time, then you have one foreign player who can be subbed in. That is the advantage that they have in this scheme. So now they have a lot of options. So they have 2 kinds of all-rounders. They have David Wieser, who is a good fast bowling and finisher kind of a player. Yes. Very fit guy, extremely fit guy, very good fielder, who they can send in. So imagine Russell and Wieser together. So they can do that if they want. If the ball is turning, they could put in a Shakib Al Hasan. Okay. If the ball is swinging, they can put a Tim Saudi. So they have an enormous amount of options with the third guy. They don't have a lot of backup for Indian players. So if they start with 4 foreign players, now they're screwed. Because now it's not a great side anymore. But if they start with 3 foreign players, then the side really starts making sense. And I sincerely hope that they thought this through. I hope that this is not accidental, what they currently have. And I'm pretty sure it is.
No, but
and they have one big weak point in the side, besides, of course, Andre Russell, who's a hit or miss kind of guy, is the form of Varun Chakravarti, because they don't have any other spinner. I mean, who's the other spinner they have? They have nobody else. They have Anukul Roy, who is like a poor man's version of Ravindra Jadeja. So, and he's nowhere close to that bowling. He's fielding wise, you can say that he's close to Ravindra Jadeja, great fielder. But Varun Chakravarti, if he's either injured or he has another terrible year than he did last year, I mean, there's basically Sunil Narayan, is it? It has to be Sunil Narayan, and you have to play Shakib at that point of time.
Yeah, you have to play Shakib. That's why, I think it is very commendable that they were able to even put together a team given the budget they had. Yeah. Right? Full kudos to Chandrakant Pandit and these guys at the auction. They were even able to put together a team. I thought it was impossible to put together a team after what purse they had going into the auction. I still don't understand the Lockey trade makes sense. Lockey, I think, adds a lot of value to the team. But Shardul and Gurbaz, I don't see much there. Gurbaz also, like, yeah, I think the whole reason when they went, because okay, he can play in the Asian conditions. He's done it in the PSL. He
50
gives
lakhs,
you that.
right? So he is already holding up 50 lakhs. So they felt that they would not be able to get a Gurbaz-like player. So I think here's the way it worked. So before the auction, they basically had no keepers, right? Before the auction. So, I mean, before the trade window, because they were not
Sheldon
going to,
Jackson was the keeper
but they knew
last
that
year.
Sheldon Jackson is useless. I mean, everybody knew Sheldon Jackson is useless, so they can't persist with Sheldon Jackson one more season. And then there was Baba Aparajit or Baba Indrajit, one of the others. So they had basically no keeper. So before the auction started, they wanted to have
Safety.
a sure shot that there should at least be somebody who can stand behind the stumps, even if everything goes to hell. So the cheapest guy available who they were willing to sell was a 50 lakh guy, which was Rahmanullah Gurbaz. So they did the right thing, buying at least that one guy. So even if everything went to hell, they would have somebody behind the wickets. Otherwise, they might not have had anybody behind the wickets. Now, given that, I think Calcutta was enormously helped by two things. Firstly, because Bangladesh is not going to be available for the full season, nobody bid for a Liton Das. See, Liton Das is very good for these conditions.
Yes.
He's definitely worth more than what he sold for, which is 50 lakhs. So if you look at Puran, for instance, in that 15 crore, and if you compare 15 crore for Puran versus 50 lakhs for Liton Das, I'm not saying that Liton Das is Puran's level, but he's not that multiplier less either. So it is a very good trade to get somebody like Liton Das at that cheap a price.
Shakib at base price is a steal, because, and I'm surprised no one went for him, because he was in one of the first or the second sets. So no one went for him. Everyone just sat on him. And then last May, just like how last year Royals picked up a bunch of people in the end.
Yes.
These guys went and picked up a bunch of people at their base price, and Shakib and Liton. So from having no keeper at all to now having Gurbaz, Jagdishan and Liton Das.
And the last thing was, I think the real luck was nobody went after Jagdishan. He went for 75 lakhs, which I feel that he should feel hard done by. I think that there are many Indian players, like Shivam Mavi, for instance. Why would somebody spend so much money on Shivam Mavi when you could buy N. Jagdishan at 75 lakhs? I know that N. Jagdishan hasn't had he's not played IPL pretty much, but given the need for an Indian keeper, given the fact that Dhiman Saha is on the way out, and given that Dinesh Karthik is on the way out, so we have a number of IPL Indian keepers who are basically on the way out at this point of time. Dhoni also on the way out, right? So there is a demand for, and Sanju Samson is never leaving Rajasthan Royals, so he's fixed, right? So given the paucity of Indian keepers, which is why Sheldon Jackson even got a chance. Sheldon Jackson was a normal batsman. There's no way he would have ever been picked up by any franchise.
Yes.
So given that there is such a paucity of Indian wicket keepers, young wicket keepers, I was really surprised that nobody went for N. Jagdishan. If N. Jagdishan has a breakout year this year, then his stocks are going to rise like this because of his keeping. And of course, at that point of time, Kolkata Knight Riders will let him go.
He's a very good glove man. I think the problem with CSK was that he is a 135 strike rate player, and that's not someone who they need. They already have enough of those, right? That's why he never got a chance to make the team.
So why did they buy? So the next team is CSK. Then why did they buy Ajinkya Rahane? He's not going to go above 135 either. You should have kept him and not bought Ajinkya then.
That's when they didn't. That's that big calculation mistake they did, right? They and also we'll go to CSK when they get to, because they have a.
We are at CSK.
There is a method to their madness.
Let's talk about your team, CSK, now. I'll let you take the lead. Did they do well or not?
So I'll tell you, CSK for the last 5 auctions, after every auction, every CSK fan, not just me, has this expression of Paresh Rawal from Hera Fairy saying "Uthale Baba." that is every CSK fan's reaction, because from any auction in the last 5 years, you cannot come out and say, yes, this is a championship winning team, right? That is why they've been called Dad's Army and this and whichever seasons it has happened, like from 18 onwards, they've always looked like that. So even this time, I look at the auction like, why are you going after Ben Stokes? Like, what value is Ben Stokes going to add to you? He's not bowling. He's not your death bowling option. If he is, then you're screwed.
Yes.
He's not among the runs. And yeah, that is such a high value, because the price that they went for Ben Stokes, they could have gotten Mayank and Holder and fixed two problems. They would have gotten the Bravo replacement, and Holder has been someone who's part of the system before, and Mayank would have gone at number 4, right? The amount they paid for those two would have just been what they paid now for Stokes. So none of that makes sense. And then they picked up Rahane in the end on base price. They picked up Jamieson on base price. And I'm just trying to think, okay, where do these guys play? Like, what position do they play, or what problem are you trying to solve? You can put them in the 11 because you have them, but it's not like because they lost Robin. Like, Robin retired. There's a spot there, which perfect person would be Mayank Agarwal to fix that spot. But they didn't do that. They lost Bravo. Perfect person would have been Holder. Like, Karan, I know for sure they were not going to get him. But they have fixed those problems differently. And then they had that whole one more slot, right, of Chris Jordan / Adam Milne, which now they have replaced with Kyle Jamieson. So those are the... And CSK's last auction was horrible because the people they bought were Robin, Raidu, Bravo, Jordan. 3 of them are now no longer with your team. You bought them, next year itself you said it's a mistake, you release them. So that has always been the problem with CSK. But it's also the other thing that you said is like, after every auction, the team never looks great. But it's what their man management skills are, like a completely different level, like way beyond everyone, which is why, like, Robin actually said in one of the podcasts that he was part of, is that he said he's been part of so many teams, but CSK was the only team where he felt like from day one, he's been there for a long time. He felt welcome. MS said, you will play, you will get a game. So the guy sat throughout the season, shows up at the semi-final and the final, and helps him win the trophy, right? Just he plays 2 games and he's done, because that they carried Raina for almost like 9 games or 10 games. So that is the thing they do. So again, I'll probably be wrong. I should be wrong. I hope I am wrong. Where Stokes has a great year. Rahane suddenly becomes the super sub there. 4 wickets are down. Rahane comes and takes them to 140. Some things that might happen. You know, Jameson may get a game at Wankhede where he comes and does magic. You don't know. But on paper, it doesn't look like that. They're teams that are paper tigers. This team on paper does not look like a team. And every year, I think even last year in your when you did your roundup, you didn't have CSK high. Even the last years before, we've never had CSK high. As a fan, I've never had CSK. Why would you have? But they just keep up. So it just depends on who shows up. Last year, no one showed up. This year, if people show up, it is actually the pedigree is there, and they go for pedigree more than anything else. Which is why you will very rarely see. There's only one slot ever in the CSK team. They play the 10 people select themselves. There's only one slot, and that is that rotation slot, which sometimes is a Dubey or someone else. We will give someone a chance. If it works, it works, and that's what their team is like. It's been a 10-man team for the last 10 years.
I think that slot is called the Badrinath slot.
Yes, the Badrinath slot, which now might be the Rahane spot, but it's a 10-man team. It has been a 10-man team for a decade now, and all the 10. You know, it's not like you have like Jitesh Sharma, Ayush Badoni. That's why last year, like I was watching like the auction, like all these guys are getting picked up. And who are you going after? You're going after pedigree. You only want pedigree. So it has worked. I hope it works. I pray it works. This is the time when from being an atheist, I become a theist whenever CSK is coming for the IPL. So I don't know. You tell me, what do you think?
So for me, the thing is that obviously there's something special about Dhoni as a captain. There are 2 things which I think has changed about CSK to its detriment. First is that they have had very public falling out with their players. So this is again, I think, a sign of, I mean, obviously, I think every franchise has friction. It has to be like you're playing with so many very talented people. All of them are very good, and obviously not all of them are going to play. So first of all, they had a very public falling out with Suresh Raina. That was very obvious. Then they had a falling out with Ravindra Jadeja. So they happen to be two of your biggest performers, right?
Yes.
Over the years, they're two of the biggest stars. My problem with this side currently is that we saw last year that the moment the captaincy passes from Dhoni to anybody else, there's a huge dip in performance. So you look at the side on paper, it looks terrible. Then Dhoni takes over and they start winning games. And once anybody else is the captain, then they perform as their potential on paper. That's what happens. So this is obviously a side which is absolutely dependent on, you said they were a 10-member side. Now they're effectively a 9-member side, because Dhoni also is like, he's like that old uncle who just does keeping, and he just tells this guy go play in Mohalla games, right? And so he's basically, Dhoni is down to that. And unfortunately, as we see, he's still worth his place in the side just through that, because if you replace him, they're absolutely going to come at the end. So he definitely is worth it. So the problem with this side again is you alluded to, is on paper, they needed so when Dwayne Bravo goes, I wasn't so worried about Robin Uthappa going. I mean, they would get a replacement. Even if it was not Mayank Agarwal, they should definitely not have let Jagdishan go, in my opinion. Jagdishan, now that Robin Uthappa was gone. So I read an interview of Jagdishan, and it seemed to me again that Jagdishan was pissed off at CSK. So he basically said, look, I had no chance of playing there. I was not going to play there. So maybe whether they let him go or whether he wanted to go, I don't know what it was. But Jagdishan obviously is at a place where he wants to play. Obviously, he wants to increase his value, right? So that's really obvious. So Jagdishan should have gotten a chance to play now that Uthappa was gone, in my opinion. Dhoni or somebody should have said, okay, you're right, you were not getting a game before. Now you are going to get a game, because there is a spot for you. You've played very well in this year. This is your spot. You're going to play. They obviously didn't tell him that. So now they let this guy go. And instead, they take Ajinkya Rahane, who is, at least on paper, worse than him in terms of two reasons. Firstly, is their strike rates are similar. Secondly, is Ajinkya Rahane is obviously not a future prospect. He's not going to improve, if anything. So there is, and especially when you have an Ambati Raidu and you have fairly old people, you want your new acquisitions to be younger, not older. So that is obviously the wrong direction. I still think Ajinkya Rahane was cheap. You could have bought him, but you could still have kept Jagdishan because he was already there. Now, the problem with Ben Stokes is that Ben Stokes is not the replacement for Dwayne Bravo. Because Dwayne Bravo's thing is, he is a bowling all-rounder. His principal thing is to bowl. He bowls the death overs. He will not bowl till the 15th or 16th over. It's usually in an emergency that he comes, and if there's like, they're going at 10 runs and over, they will basically bring him on at the 8th over. So Ben Stokes never bowls more than 2 overs. Second thing is, Ben Stokes has a problem. It's not just a technical problem. It's a psychological problem bowling at the end. We all know what happened to him when he bowled at the end, right? So he's not going, he will get hit for 4 sixes again. And so you cannot bowl him at the end, even if you need just 1 over from him at the end. He can't do that. Unlike, let's say, Russell. Russell goes for runs, but Russell actually has the things that you need. He has a heavy ball. He has all the things. Now, he's a little unfit, which I believe is why he doesn't execute it, but he has the armory. He just can't execute properly. Ben Stokes doesn't even have the things. So he's a swing bowler. Ben Stokes is, even in the test matches, he usually opens the bowling and then he doesn't bowl because he's a very good swing bowler, but that's it. And given his injury problems, he also doesn't want to strain himself. The other problem with Ben Stokes is that, and this is again my subjective opinion, is he's one of those players who I think dials it in IPL. He's not a Warner. He keeps himself back. The way he plays in IPL, I've seen him over the years, isn't the way he plays for England. It is not the same way. He plays keeping a little bit in the tank. He doesn't want to get injured. He doesn't want to, he just, so that was not the case. West Indian players are never like that because they really don't have a country that they play for. They give everything for their franchises. So if you have, so that's why when you compare him with Dwayne Bravo, he's never going to bring the intensity that Dwayne Bravo brought to the side. He was a death bowler. If he used to bat at 8 or 9 the end of his career, and he was always good. Like I remember he once destroyed Calcutta in one of the games. Where
he would give you, like, there would be every season there would be at least one game where he's given like 35 in 18 balls or something. Yes. There would be one game.
So again, the problem with having him, Ben Stokes, is you have to bat him in the top 3, right? You can't bowl him. His bowling will be maybe 1 over initially. That's it. When the ball is swinging, you can bowl him. But you also have Deepak Chahar, who also cannot bowl at the end. So who is going to bowl your last overs? Is it going to be Tushar Deshpande, Mukesh Chaudhary? Who's going to bowl it? Is it going to be Mahesh Theekshana that you're going to?
Theekshana has been doing it in the LPL. So unfortunately,
a standard between LPL.
I know, but unfortunately now that's the only option we have, right? So Theekshana is the only one.
So now they will have to play Kyle Jamieson, in my opinion. Kyle Jamieson has to be the guy at the end. I don't think otherwise they will be dead at the end. So Kyle Jamieson comes in. Now Kyle Jamieson comes in, Devon Conway has to play. So Devon Conway, Kyle Jamieson, Moeen Ali are definitely playing, right? So now you have Ben Stokes, now would you play Dwayne Stokes and Dwayne Pretorius? Now, I'm not sure that Ben Stokes is always ahead of Dwayne Pretorius. And now you wonder why you spent so much money on Ben Stokes.
No, I'll tell you. At Chepauk, Theekshana plays.
Theekshana I forgot. So Theekshana plays. So where do you play Ben Stokes now?
Unfortunately, the problem was going to happen is Conway is going to have to sit. So Stokes will have to open with Gaikwad. Conway will have to sit. So Stokes has to play. Theekshana plays. Alibai plays. These 3 are playing. So your only spot is the 4th spot, which is either Conway or Jameson or something like that. Unfortunately,
will have to play. They need some muscle in the.
You need an enforcer,
right?
You need an enforcer, and unfortunately, you don't have that now. Theekshana has to bowl 18, 20, but someone still has to bowl 17 and 19. Yes. Cannot be Ben, and because both Mukesh and Deepak, right? They both are going to swing the ball. They're both going to bowl your power play.
Yeah, so they are going to take up the overs where Ben Stokes is most effective. So they can't have all of them bowling the first 2 overs, right? So that's the problem.
It's a very big mishmash. So now the only way they can do it is like have Mukesh and Deepak in the power play, and then Ben Stokes bowls in the middle along with Alibai and Jadeja, and it's going to be weird. It is going to be one of MSD's biggest problems, in years. I mean, the guy has made it with Shadab Jakati and Mohit Sharma and all that. Now he has to make it work with this bowling attack that they've given him. I mean, he likes challenges, so the management keeps throwing him challenges in the auction. This is probably one of his weirdest challenges, this year, because like I always felt like the Shivam Dubey spot was the open spot. That was the flying spot.
Yes.
But now you've created more. So Raidu now has to play.
He has to play.
Raidu
he gets injured every year, right? He can't complete.
Correct. So Raidu has to play, and again, like I said, with age on his side, I don't know if he's going to play the entire season. So then now you're scratching and looking, okay, who's going to play it?
Rajvardhan Hungrekar, I think.
But I mean, Sheikh Rashid is there, Hungrekar, but that's the other thing with CSK. CSK is not known to give these youngsters chances. Like they don't do that. They are not known for. They'll only do that in a pinch. Like last year, the only reason Simarjeet and Mukesh Chaudhary played was because they were destroyed. Like Chahar was gone, Milne was gone. No one was there who could bowl seam. That is why these guys played. So yeah, it's this is again one more MSD. Do your magic if you can. Otherwise, we'll go bottom. We'll play for number 5 and number 6.
Anyway, so going to the last team, Mumbai Indians, again, a very controversial team in terms of whether they have an amazing side or they're absolutely screwed up. So again, very extreme opinions on Mumbai Indians. So obviously this year they let Kieron Pollard, who's kind of been a talisman for them for many years. Either he retired or he was let go, or it's he wasn't going to get better. So they let Kieron Pollard go, and I think he's going to be part of their coaching staff now. So last year they did something which was very Ambani-ish, that they bought Jofra Archer when he was like one of the secrets of Dhirubhai Ambani was that he used to buy broken machines,
yes,
and then he would assemble, because if he imported intact machinery, there was a huge import duty, but there was very little on scrap. So they would basically be in two pieces. He would bring them, he would put them together, and then he would avoid import duty.
That's a good one.
So Jofra Archer was like that. He was effectively that. He's an extremely valuable asset, but he was in two parts last year. So they, in the firm traditions of the Ambanis, they bought him. I think Jofra Archer, I'm personally a huge fan of Jofra Archer.
Yes.
Just love to watch him bowl. He reminds me of the old West Indian pace bowlers. Like, this guy comes onto the field, he is like the Malinga kind of guy. He's going to win you the game instantly. That's ball speed, everything. He has everything in his armory. He's also an interesting person. So he also brings that flair and drama. So he's pretty much everything a franchise can want. And so they brought Jofra Archer. Again, I think he's going to play this year. But again, he's coming off an injury. And one of the things with pace bowlers is sometimes they're not the same after they come back.
Yes.
They might never be the same, or they might take time for them to recover, or they might have to reinvent things. And many players have done it. And the greatest example that's often given is Dennis Lillee, who had a debilitating injury. People felt he was just, end of it. And then he came back even better. He rehabilitated himself. That was the greatness of Dennis Lillee. Now, can Jofra Archer do this? We'll have to see. On paper, so this year they were like, okay, they have Jofra Archer coming back, they think. So they went all out for Cameron Green. And now Cameron Green is injured. 2 days after that, like pretty seriously. So Cameron Green to them is the way they look at it was the replacement for Pollard. So they were determined to buy Cameron Green no matter what, because they felt that Pollard wasn't there. They needed a Pollard-like character. So they needed a Cameron Green. And in a way, he fits the bill, at least physically. They look very similar, gigantic people. And, Cameron Green also is, I think he's a better bowler than Pollard, but a worse batsman than Pollard.
Yes.
So that's the trade-off. Again, he's an untested quantity in IPL. So I always have a little bit of a problem when somebody goes in with like 15 crores for somebody who's never played IPL, because playing in Australia and playing in India are vastly different.
Also untested in T20s anyway, even for Australia, he hasn't played that many.
He's played a few, like 2 or 3 games he opened and he just went hell for leather.
But it's all recency bias, because if you look at his Australia record also, or his BBL record, he is not a very good. If you even ask like the Perth Scorchers or someone to buy him, they're like, yeah, he's a decent guy. Like, he's someone who has leapfrogged and done very well in the test team. But white ball, even in Australia, for Australia, he's not like set the stage on fire or something like that, right? Compared to like a Brevis, who at least in the South African leagues has been going crazy. Like recently, they just had the new domestic tournament that was their internal domestic tournament. He was going crazy. So there is something there. Green is more like, okay, he came to India, he opened, he scored, chalo usko le lo. And unpopular opinion, I have a feeling that he will be I hope he's not. I like the guy. He's not the Richard Levy of this season for them. I really hope. But that's where he is. Like, even in Australia, don't regard him very high as a T20 player. And he's been picked for his T20 skills, which he's, like you said, he's a better bowler than a batsman. And he's certainly not going to fit that Pollard role, because they already have someone to bat there, Tim David. Right. Tim David is going to be that slot. So I don't know. It's just like they needed another bowling option, because if you look at it, they don't have a sixth bowler on their team. So they just needed someone to give them 2 overs, not necessarily, and then maybe play somewhere on the top.
Yeah, but there are many cheaper players for 2 overs that they could have gotten.
Yes.
So let's look at the team. If you look at the team, if Jofra Archer is fit, then he's definitely playing, right? So Jofra Archer, so that's one foreign slot gone. Now, given their rather weak, so there is, of course, Jasprit Bumrah. So other than Jasprit Bumrah, there is, look at their bowling lineup. It's fairly sparse. So they will have to play a Jason Burnham. So they have to have, or Jai Richardson. So let's say they have 2 of them. So they have Jai Richardson, Jofra Archer, and they have Jasprit Bumrah. Now it's okay. Now the problem is spinner. Okay. So they have Piyush Chawla. Now Piyush Chawla is again an impact player kind of player. He's not going to be able to stand for 20 overs in the field. So he'll give you 4 overs. So you can have Piyush Chawla as your impact player. I get it. But first of all, who's going to do there's no spin option in a tournament in India. And your best spinner is Piyush Chawla. That's problem number 1. It's an extremely, so you have 2 foreigners taking 2 of the bowling, the bowling lineup. So you have basically 2 foreigners left. Let's say everybody is fit. Now, obviously, since you paid so much money for Cameron Green, you're going to play Cameron.
You're going to play him, yes.
Right? It makes no sense if he's fit and he's still sitting on the bench. Right? So he's there. Now you have a problem of Dewald Brevis and Tim David, both of whom should be playing.
Yes.
There is no side that I would make without both of them. They are Ishan Kishan, Surya Kumar Yadav, Tim David, Dewald Brevis, Tilak Verma. Very strong batting lineup.
Yes.
Very, very strong. Maybe
that is like a 200. They're like a 190-200 hitting team. If you bat like that.
Very strong batting lineup. But if you play these, so now you have the devil's choice. Either you play Cam Green, either you play these 2 and play Cam Green and play 1 bowler less in the foreign department. At which point of time, if you score 200, the other side will also score 200, given the bowling that you have. And even remember, even Jasprit Bumrah is coming off an injury. So it's not that Jasprit Bumrah is also at his best. I'm pretty sure he will not be at his best, at least in the first half of the tournament. So you are a cannon fodder if you're playing against, let's say, in Chinnaswamy. This side is a cannon fodder in Chinnaswamy. And if Jofra Archer is not at his best either, they have no bowling. So no matter what they make in batting, there's no way they'll be able to defend it.
Yeah, because like I said, spin was the thing, right? They have in a tournament that is in India where a lot of teams are going to be relying heavily on spin. When you see what Rajasthan or Chennai or the other teams are doing, their spin options last year were.
KKR also can bring many spinners if they play the 3 things. They can bring.
Yeah, but last year they played Kumar Karthikeya and Hrithik Shawkin. Those were their spin options last year. And now to bolster it, they've added Piyush Chawla, which is pedigree, but Piyush Chawla has been he's been an analyst on Cricinfo or something for the last 2 years now. And you're calling him
It worked for Dinesh Karthik. He came back from commentary.
Yeah, so I don't know. But I don't know if he's been playing any domestic cricket either. So that's their problem. Like Robro, Ishan, Surya, Tilak, Tim David, Green / Brevis is fabulous. But then the bowling is suspect because even with assuming Jofra and Bumrah are fit, you still need to get 12 overs out of Shawkin, Karthikeya, and Green.
Yeah, Green is not a 4-over bowler anywhere.
Yes.
He never bowls. He's like Ben Stokes. He's like, Cameron Green reminds me of Tom Moody. So the kind of looks the same. Tom Moody also used to bat similarly. He's like Tom Moody was not he was their 5th bowler at one-day games. But he was not, that was the thing. Tom Moody never thought of his bowling. It was mostly his batting. And Cam Green, you're right. Even I play BBL fantasy. So if you look at the prices that they give in BBL fantasy, one of the lowest is Cameron Green's. He has ridiculously low, and that is linked to his performance. So his performance in T20 in Australia is fairly poor. So he's not a T20 guy at all. So again, definitely he was worth selecting, but at that price, man,
Yeah,
that
and like I
made
said,
no sense.
in this 11, the way however you put the 11, he has to bowl 4 overs,
He has
right?
to put 4 overs.
He has to bowl 4 overs. So you could get Jai Richardson or Behrendorff instead of a Brevis, but still Green is your fifth. However you look at it, this team does not have 6 bowling options.
Tilak
And
Verma will have to bowl because you see, look at
yeah,
their,
he's forced to bowl now.
because if you look at his side, I mean, neither can Rohit Sharma bowl, nor can Ishan Kishan bowl, nor can Devol Brevis bowl, nor can Sunil. So none of them can even bowl 1 over, right? So the only person who can bowl is Tilak Verma. And that is obviously it's a very weak bowling option. Unless, of course, they decide to go with God and play Arjun Tendulkar.
There is a very famous surname in the squad. So.
Yes, so Arjun Tendulkar, if they... well, that would definitely make this team very interesting. But if they can bring in Arjun Tendulkar, because he can bowl and he can at least nominally bat. So
he scored a century for Goa.
So this might be Arjun Tendulkar's year, because there is definitely, like, instead of, let's say, a Hrithik Shaukin, if a Hrithik Shaukin or whoever is, as ineffective as Arjun Tendulkar, at least he brings in some batting, or at least he brings in some interest at the very least.
He's a left-hand bowler. So Mumbai like that. Like Mumbai has always had. So the reason they got Behrendorff is because there has always been a left-hand fast bowler in Mumbai.
Trent Bolt has been there like the most.
Mitch Johnson, Bolt. Last year they had Unadkat for that reason.
And Sams.
Yeah, Sams. So they have Behrendorff. But now, yeah. So the very famous surname that is there, they could use that as an option. And like I said, given how the 11 lines up, it's not a like a quota buy. You might actually make the 11.
So absolute beast of a batting lineup, absolute beast. But just this is like the classic Bangalore side. So Bangalore at its best or its worst, depending on your opinion. But I think Bangalore now has a more well-balanced side. But Bangalore at its, like the way we know Bangalore with Gale and Watson and Deacock and Kohli at his best, ABDV, what a side. And then
Corey Anderson was bowling the death overs.
Corey Anderson, then yes. So that's what. But let's see. So finally, to round up, and we've had a big episode. Who do you think will win?
I hope it's Rajasthan's year. Because I hope it's Rajasthan's year. Rajasthan or Bangalore. I think both on paper right now, like both of those teams look really, both of those 11s at least that we spoke of look really good. And you can't count Gujarat out. So all the other 11s, have a lot of questions like who's going to show up. But I think those 3 teams, the 11s look good on paper as of now. Come April, we don't know what's going to happen. But as of December, they look really good. The 4th, I still can't put a finger on, but that's good. There's an option open for 4. And given the T-shirt that I'm wearing, we're always hopeful of making that last dash. But I think Rajasthan, Bangalore, and Gujarat right now are there.
So who do you think will come last?
It has to be between Punjab and LSG.
Punjab, LSG. I would disagree on LSG. I don't think LSG will come last, because I think that if there's one thing that KL Rahul is good at is at least the stat padding part of it. So he will score some runs.
It's a team I want to see last. I want to see Gambhir's face when they're at the bottom of the table. That is what gives me immense joy. So no, I know they won't. I know they will somehow end up in the middle of the table.
They will. I think that, yeah. So I think my last is definitely, on paper again, is definitely Punjab. I think that they have really the worst of everything, in my opinion. And that's why I think they're going to come last. I think I normally like to say it's KKR blindly, but I don't think that KKR is that bad a side. KKR should, in my opinion, definitely have a top 4 finish if they play even close to their potential, or at least on paper. I think the number 1 side I would agree, is Rajasthan Royals. Based on what I see, they have pretty much every everything is there. The other side I would say is Delhi, but Delhi have like problem of plenty in the wrong places, and it depends on how good a season Rishabh Pant has. I think that they have very destructive batsmen. I think they could win. Rajasthan is obviously the most well-rounded. Again, Chennai you can never count out because of Dhoni. But honestly, I think this is a little bridge too far. I mean, you can never count out Chennai and Mumbai because they're like champion franchises. That's what defines a champion franchise, and that's what obviously defines also a franchise like Bangalore. That I'm not mentioning Bangalore, principally because of the fact that they haven't shown that they can win. So that's just it. That's how I would like to conclude. So Rajasthan for number 1, and last would be Punjab.
Okay, we both agree on that. I think, yeah, it's I think the middle table will be very interesting between Delhi, Chennai, Mumbai, and possibly Bangalore, because they'll all be fighting in the middle. I just want to see LSG in the bottom.
So why this? So I need to ask. So why this dislike for Gambhir?
I don't know, man. He has this smug face. He has a very punchable face. It's like right from his playing days. I'm like he has this, gunda man. Like, no, dude, you don't look like any of that. You look like one nice guy who should be sitting in SBI behind a counter at a teller. He has that branch manager kind of a face, and he has the aggression of this, tujhe pata hai mera baap kaun hai. So it's very mismatched.
He's very Delhi, right? He embodies Delhi, which is, I mean, the irony was that he couldn't do anything with the Delhi Capitals or Delhi Daredevils, but he was good at Calcutta, but he was like, we in Kolkata Knight Riders fans love him because, I mean, he brought us 2 championships, and he was definitely the difference between winning and not winning in terms of his, I would say, captaincy, in terms of, his leadership. So he was definitely, and I think that Calcutta Knight Riders definitely did worse once he left, because I don't think that DK or
Morgan
they're not franchise captains. You need somebody with the character strength like Rohit Sharma or a Dhoni. It is not just a question of getting 11 people on the side. He's a project manager. So this is a program, and every IPL is a program, and they need to basically manage everything. I think that's how I look at it. So that guy needs to have some stature. So I don't think everybody has it. Even very good players don't have it. I think Dinesh Karthik didn't have it at all, which is why I think Kolkata went downhill. And I don't think Shreyas Iyer has it either, for that matter. But let's see. I think Rohit Sharma does have it. Who else? I think I can't think of who. Virat Kohli did have it, actually. Virat Kohli did have that stature at his best. It's just I don't know why. We could have another discussion on why Bangalore never won. I think it's a mystery to me.
Well, they had serious problem, like you said. Their top order went the bottom, and their second do not make sense. But this last year and this year, the team actually makes sense. Both halves of the thing, that team can actually play in Chinnaswamy and not get bludgeoned. Right. It is totally possible, but I don't know.
I remember, and I have to conclude with that. I remember I realized something was wrong with the franchise when one of the franchises, when Mallya was still involved, or he was still not a Ferrari. They were interviewing him as like, how do you think your auction went? And he said, we got some very good players like Ashok Dinda. And I realized at that point of time, man, there's something wrong with this franchise. The first name that comes to your mind is Ashok Dinda, another legend of IPL. But thanks a lot for being on the show. It was great talking to you. We've talked for a long time. It was like, it's very conversational. And I just love talking about IPL, because the auction is the most interesting part of IPL for me. As
auction and fantasy, 2 of the most important things about the IPL, which have nothing to do with the game itself.
Nothing to do with the game. So this thing is the most fascinating part. How this is something which we don't get in like international cricket, where you're dealt the cards of fortune. Like if you're Sikandar Raza, you're born in Zimbabwe. There's never going to be a play. There's never a path in which you're going to be a champion in our side. So there's unfortunate, right? So, but this is not that. Sikandar Raza here could lift the trophy. So that's the great thing, how teams put together their teams with the same amount of resources, their different philosophies, how some teams consistently get it wrong. Some teams look like they've gotten it wrong, but ultimately they somehow manage mysteriously. I think that is the fascinating thing for me. I think there's something to be learned there also professionally, in terms of like how do some people manage it and how some people don't. Of course, the games is a totally different thing. So will you be playing fantasy this year too?
Definitely. I mean, my favorite status message always is, while my fantasy team gently weeps. Because I'll always pick against the wrong day. I will drop Rahul the day he scores a century. And there's always one. But let's see, this year might be different. And like Nehra ji always says, batsman jitne bhi le lo, game to bowler jitate hain.
I agree, and that doesn't sound good for Mumbai Indians. That's to conclude. All right, thanks a lot for being on the show, and everybody else. We'll see you sometime in the future, and have a happy new year. Bye-bye.
Thank you.